Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Wednesday, the 13th day of September, 2023, Wednesday of the 23rd week of the year, the 23rd week in Ordinary Time. It is also the feast day or the memorial day of St. John Chrysostom, the one who was labeled as the one who had a golden tongue because of his ability to preach and to inspire the people in the church in Constantinople, where he was bishop in the 4th century. Not a person without controversy, a person who often, because of his challenging words and his remarks about living this Christian life, was not always able to be seen in great light, especially by the powerful, by the emperor, by nobles, and by nobility and things like that. And so he suffered a lot. There was sometimes when he was Archbishop of Constantinople, there were sometimes when he was not, when he was exiled, all kinds of things like that. He was very much involved with what were known as the Christological controversies, which were trying to define just who Jesus is. You know, what does it mean to be Son of God? What does it mean to have God in our midst, present within our midst? Is it two gods? Is it three gods? Is it just no? Is it still just one God? All these kinds of things were often raised. Is God human? Is God divine? John Chrysostom fell always on the line of the balance between humanity and divinity, and that wasn't always well received by many, because it was too hard to comprehend. It was too hard to understand. So many people in his day, as most Christians in that day, just kind of sided on one or the other. It's either just a divine being in our midst, or it's just kind of a superhuman that's around, both of which will compromise God's ability to understand truly what it means to be human and God's aim to be part of creation when God becomes one like us. So remember all of those today who try to challenge accepted ways of thinking and try to go against the norm, as John Chrysostom did. His day always precedes the exaltation of the Holy Cross, tomorrow the 14th, because again he fought for the sense in which in Christ's divinity and in his humanity, there is the exaltation of all creation and the affirmation, of God's goodness and of God's love for all of creation. So our readings for today, there are special readings for him, but they're kind of just generic saint readings. But the readings for today, Colossians continues. Again, here's where Paul basically says, if you're going to be a Christian, you have to act differently. It doesn't mean that you continue to do the things that you did. And it's not basically a deprivation of enjoyment of life and of goodness of life and of the wonder and beauty of immersing ourselves in this life. But it's the question of how is this life used? Is it just used for ourselves? Is it just used for our own gain? Is it just used for our own pleasure and benefit? Or is there something wonderful and beautiful in it that we need to use to respect, others around us, to respect the world around us, to allow what is good and what is wonderful to continue to flourish, and that includes ourselves. And so again, a very interesting point that again Paul is making to the Colossians. And so you wonder if this was kind of just Christianity was just a hobby for them, and it was just some one of a number of different kind of pursuits that they could involve themselves in. And Paul says, no, it's got to be a little bit more than that. And he concludes this part of the letter with that wonderful statement where there is no division, there is no difference among humanity within Christ, but that it is God being all in all, Christ being all in all, because of the unity that Christ manifests of all humanity, of all human beings, regardless of race, of belief, of whatever. In the Gospel today, we begin the great Sermon on the Plain that Jesus does in Luke's Gospel. Again, the parallel to Sermon on the Mount in Matthew's Gospel. This is the Sermon on the Plain. It's a little bit shorter, but it's a little bit more direct, and there are a lot more elements to it than in Matthew's Gospel. Here, there are basically 6 blessings and then 6 woes. 6 altogether. There are 3 blessings, and then there are 3 woes. The 3 blessings are given to those, again, who find life difficult, who find life without any kind of blessings or benefits, and again, either through hunger, either through poverty, either through sadness and persecution or whatever it is, and that these people will be rewarded. It's not a future time, but the sense in which their reward for their pain and their hurt, the transformation of their pain and their hurt will be given now. But then there is also the woes, that those who are have their bellies full, that those who are rich, that those who everyone talks well about are going to be those now who have to suffer Because again, why? Well, it doesn't mean because they're eating and, and people are thinking well of them that that's a bad thing. It's again that they are using it only for their own gain, for their own selfishness, for their own selfish pursuits. And that is not what it means to be fully human. That is not what it means to be alive in this world. That is not what it means, to allow the wonder and the beauty of whom we are as the image and likeness of God to shine. And so basically Jesus kind of sets out the sense about what are we about? Who do we live for? If we live just for ourselves, there's not much to that. But if we find our living difficult, if we find our living painful, Christ is there, to help us navigate through it, to the wonder and beauty of who and what we are. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.